The Twins dedicated the Joe Mauer statue at Target Field on Sunday and later played their best game of the season so far. Granted, there's not many of them to choose from, but at least the organization showed us what their best looks like. Will there be more days like this with the Mets coming to town? Maybe yes, maybe no, maybe definitely get Locked On Twins.
You are Locked On Twins, your daily Minnesota Twins podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to Locked On Twins, your daily go-to source for the top Minnesota Twins insight, discourse, and analysis. Personally, it's my favorite show of the Imperial Locked On Podcast Network, which, by the way, brings you your team every day. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe where applicable. I'm Dave Brown, an MLB writer who sometimes writes at a statue's pace. My editors hate it. I'm also a BBWA member and a Hall of Fame voter. Across the Great Plains of cyberspace is Brandon Warren, a guy who looks like he's standing still but is actually doing a lot of work. Brandon was a Twins fan who became a Twins writer, and now he's both. You can't find us at Puckett's Pond anymore, but there's always Access Twins and zone coverage. On the podcast today, Joe Mauer is cast in bronze forever at Target Plaza. Maybe any Twins fans on the fence, let's call it, about the concept of a Joe Mauer statue could start appreciating for what he is and was instead of what he wasn't and isn't. In the spirit of the moment, the Twins played a complete game. Offense, defense, special teams. As they wrote on MLB.com, that's how it's supposed to look. Byron Buxton is back after attending his cousin's funeral. Latasha Johnson was just 38 after suffering from sickle cell anemia, a disease she reportedly worked tirelessly to spread awareness of. Mascots don't usually travel, but maybe Mr. and Mrs. Met will surprise us as the Juan Soto Band visits Target Field starting Monday night. But first, this episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off. That's 50% your first year. Do it now, please. So, Brandon, Joe Mauer became the 7th Twins player to be honored with a statue Sunday. There's also a statue of the Pohlads putting his wallet back in his pocket, I believe. Joe and his family were on hand for the unveiling, and he got a little emotional. It's okay, though. He sucked that tear right back up into his eyeball. He said, my dad and grandpa told me the quickest way to get to the big leagues was as a catcher. I hope they told him better than I did just now. Body and posture in the statue, Brandon. Definitely Mauer. I'm not sure about the face or the sideburns. I really didn't get a good look at him. The artist said that he was going to do the sideburns justice. I'm sure he did. But I didn't have, like I said, the best look. What was your impression of the Joe Mauer statue?
Well, a few things. How apt that it's the 7th, right? I mean, Joe
How
Mauer.
about that?
Yeah.
I just thought, wow, I didn't think of that at all. That's great.
And would it be in poor taste to admit that during my wife and I's engagement photos, we had some taken on Target Plaza. We were just out walking around, and there may or may not be a picture that exists of me giving Mr. and Mrs. Pohlad a wet willy. Yeah. So I did take that off my Facebook just because I didn't want anybody to see it. But now that I've admitted to it, maybe I'll share it. But yeah, just an incredible little gesture, big gesture, really. And then Justin Morneau kind of emceeing the event. Apparently Dick Bramer was unavailable. I'm making that up. But Dick Bramer used to MC everything that ever happened in Minnesota. And then his kids unveiled it. And by the way, so he's got the twin girls and then the young man, the son who was born not long after or right around the time he retired. Do you know his son's name?
Is it CJ?
No, it's Chip. Chip Mauer.
Oh,
Chip
right.
Mauer is going to be a Hall of Fame second baseman with just based on name alone. Like Chip Mauer. There's no better baseball name than that. But just, you know what? Another reminder that we took Joe Mauer for granted for a very long time. And if the Hall of Fame induction wasn't enough for people to reconsider their stance on him, I don't expect the statue to be either. But I just don't understand what there is to hate here. MVP, batting titles, stayed home. Frankly, would have made more money had he gone elsewhere. They would have burnt Target Field to the ground had he gone elsewhere. It wasn't a storybook career in the sense that he never played in a playoff win, something that I remember and lament every time I think about Joe Mauer. But he made good on his promise as a number one overall pick. He had a better career than Mark Pryor. He had a better career than DeJuan Brazelton. He had a better career. You could argue. I mean, Mark Teixeira won't make the Hall of Fame, I suppose, but he was he played on some better teams. The Twins did pretty dang good with that number one overall pick 23 years ago, 24 years ago here in a couple of months.
People blame Mauer for not winning any playoff games. I think it's easy to sort of do the math on that. They didn't have enough players who were like Joe Mauer to win more playoff games or a playoff game. It's not.
Well, and it showed a lot of like logical fallacies about the game. He doesn't swing at the first pitch. What if he did? Okay, but what he does is really good. Why would you do something different? Like, Joe Mauer's up with runners on second and third and 2 outs, and the other team pitches around him but doesn't walk him, and fans want him to swing at these pitches. And it's like, what? And I've been listening to 3 Days in August, the book about the Cardinals from 20 years ago. Yeah. And Tony La Russa actually comes across fairly well for the time and even a little bit more towards now. But he talks about how, like, with the bases loaded, you do want players to change their focus to a bit more aggressive. Walks are still good, but you might want them to expand a bit. And like, part of me rejects that from the standpoint of hit good pitches, take bad pitches. But I understand too, like, if you bury yourself in a 3-2 count, you may not have taken advantage of the mistake the pitcher made in the count or something like that. So I understand the idea that people wanted Joe Mauer to do more with those opportunities, but Joe Mauer's approach was Joe Mauer's approach, for better or for worse, and he wasn't going to deviate from that. And I think that people just need to respect that.
Appreciate Joe Mauer for what he was, for what he brought, not for what you think he lacked or maybe even what he actually lacked. It added up to one of the best careers ever for a catcher. I know people don't want to hear it, but it's not, they're going to have to get over that. Mm-hmm. I don't know that they're going to. I think maybe I'm talking to the people that are maybe a little more on the fence than the unreasonable ones. I saw some brain genius say, well, Joe Mauer's contract is why the Pohlads are in debt. And it's just
sure, his contract, he made half of what they're in debt for over his entire career, but go off.
Yeah, and 15 years ago or whatever. So I don't know. Does Joe Mauer have an annuity like Bobby Bonilla? I don't know.
You may want to call J.G. Wentworth and get his cash now.
Hey, that's what they should call the helmet that they have in the dugout now. It looks like the I wish I could remember what it looks like. I'll tell you that. The
Spartan helmet.
The Spartan helmet looks like that J.G. Wentworth bus commercial where there's an opera singer and
yes,
hat on it. It looks like a J.G. Wentworth hat to me now. But.
Yeah, 877 cash now is what the Pohlads are calling to try get this team sold, because it's and you know what though, maybe no news is good news, meaning that things are moving along and it's just quiet on that front. But
yeah, maybe I didn't mean to broach the subject of the sale. I'm sorry about that, Brandon. That's a briar patch we don't want to traipse around in at the moment.
There's enough briar patches for us to get thistles from now before we consider ownership.
So just a couple more points about Mauer. It wasn't his fault that there weren't more good players in the team like him, or enough, so that they didn't win any playoff games. And it's also not his fault that he had concussions, which shortened his career and shortened his time behind the plate. So, think before you blame him for stuff that's not his fault. And just like I said, appreciate what Joe Mauer brought to the table, which is one of the best careers of any catcher ever, because there he is in the Hall of Fame.
Do you have any guess who was the starting pitcher in Joe Mauer's debut on the other side? I don't know if I've ever asked you this.
I don't remember.
Okay, I'll say small market lefty who will probably be in the Hall of Fame, but is definitely larger than life.
Well, it's not David Wells. I don't know.
You got the right body type, though.
A lefty?
Yep, big lefty.
Oh, CC Sabathia?
CC Sabathia.
There we go. You gave me enough hints.
What a phenom he was coming out, and he was still very early in his career. I remember though that like CC Sabathia was the guy that when Cleveland was coming to town back then, you did not want to see on the probables, which is funny because the Twins just faced Detroit, and Tariq Skubal and Jack Flaherty, the two that they wouldn't have wanted to see, did not start, and the Twins still only won one of those games, which I'm sure we'll get to.
We'll talk about that perhaps in the next segment. But first, we're going to talk about some pistachios.
Well, who doesn't love pistachios? And if you're on the fence about pistachios, where you should take your business is to Wonderful Pistachios. It's not just a name, folks. If you're looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious, crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios are one of the highest protein nuts you're going to find out there. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. I also did a little research, Dave Brown, and they have some naturally occurring melatonin. So if you eat them before bed too, they're supposed to help you stay asleep longer, have better restful sleep. Probably not what you're expecting when you're cracking into a snack, but
that's nuts.
Personally, I do the no shell one, the one that you have to actually the shelled ones, the ones you have to take the shells off. They have the no shell ones. I always get it confused. I shouldn't, because I shouldn't. But either variety, both delicious, whether you want something that's going to take you a little while, maybe a little messier. You probably want those ones that are no shelled for the car or some kind of snack on the go. But either way, absolutely terrific product. And you can get snackin' and get crackin' with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit Wonderful Pistachios to learn more.
Locked On Twins, we are back talking about, we were talking about the Joe Mauer statue, and pivoting off that, using the greatness of Joe Mauer, the Twins played their best game on Sunday after the statue unveiling, beating the Tigers 5-1 to avoid a sweep, to snap a 3-game losing streak. SWR was A-OK, and the bullpen was nails, but not like on a chalkboard. And the offense was offensive, but not in a smelly way. So it was perfect. It was, and Harrison Bader made another great catch that maybe changed the course of things in an inning where there was some traffic for SWR. But he got Riley Green out a couple times when there was danger on the bases, and he had the 107 pitch effort in his previous start. This wasn't as deep, but it was still exactly what they needed. Set up the bullpen, which had, I'm guessing, its best day of the year. 4 innings. I think they allowed 1 walk, had 7 strikeouts. They had a little bit of a cushion because the offense was effective enough. But as they wrote on MLB.com, I think it was Matthew Leach, this is what it's supposed to look like. And finally, the Twins have one of those games under their belt. Is that how you saw it?
Yeah, I mean, they had it lined up if things had stayed the same to go sans Jax Duran, which is the quintessential 7-8-9. I actually had that looked up. They only did that like 3 or 4 times last year, and it was late in the season. But that's also true that Sands was maybe not as big of a leverage arm early in the season. But again, when you write it up, it's like going, they used to have Jesse Crane, Juan Rincon, Joe Nathan, same kind of deal. JC Romero mixed in there, et cetera, et cetera. So that part came to fruition quite nicely. And they're going to be facing a Mets team who has really had a good bullpen so far this season too. So the battle of the bullpens will be interesting this week. But, to see how they handled the Tigers after losing the first 2, it was nice to see the Tigers make the small mistakes, and it wasn't that many. Maybe we should talk about Jose Miranda basically punching his light rail ticket over to St. Paul on that play on Saturday. There were just so many small mistakes, and small mistakes that loom large in a game of inches. I mean, it's a bunch of cliches, but they're cliches because they're also true. So, I mean, I guess I'm seeing a team that continually shoots itself in the foot. They've had 2 very winnable games that have gone the other way that would put them at 7-9 as opposed to 5-11. I mean, think about how different that looks.
They're still not, the season isn't so old though, that you can't correct these things. It's just a matter of, can they put, 2 games together with a win? They have not put 3 games together with a win since at some point, I saw the stat, but it's last year, like deep into the year, before the big slide toward the end of the season, talking about the Twins. So it's been, I don't know how long it's been since they won 3 in a row, but I mean, they haven't won 2 in a row yet. So let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Do you think that Miranda play was the difference between him getting sent out for Brooks Lee versus like Mickey Gasper? Because hear me out. Miranda was playing poorly. And if you look at what the team needs, someone to play third base. I mean, Brooks Lee could come up and play second. However, Edouard Julien's been playing pretty well. And a Julien Gasper platoon at second base is not a mess, especially too if you mix in Willie Castro there. So I'm trying to kind of map out if that
it was
Miranda slide was the straw that broke the camel's back, or if it was already kind of in motion.
I would say that it was fortuitous timing. It gave them a convenient sort of gotcha moment for it to happen. Miranda had been playing pretty well on defense in the Kansas City series in the first part of it. He started to unravel a little bit. He is as it turns out, the third string third baseman after Lewis and Lee and those guys getting hurt.
Willie might be ahead of him now too, though.
Yeah, I guess so. But he was the starter most of the time at third base, where Lee was, and Brooks Lee is back, as we kind of mentioned. He's had a 97-mile-an-hour single yesterday, and his back has felt good enough for him to go on a rehab assignment that I suspect maybe would have been a little longer. And by a little, I mean maybe 2 days.
He looked good on defense too.
Yeah, he looked really good on defense in spring training, even at shortstop. That was encouraging. So as long as Brooks Lee's back is okay, I'm pretty confident that he's going to be a good player this year. And it's a big, like you said, no matter whether he's playing second or third, it's big that he's back. And
Zips set a 96 weighted runs created plus, 96, 97. It kind of vacillated as we got closer to the season. Do you think it can be better than that?
Oh yeah, no question about it. I think it's that low because his results were terrible last year.
Yep.
Brooks Lee's were. They were way below average, way below I think what anybody projected before that. But now that that's in the books, that's going to skew the projections at least a little bit. So I don't think there's any question that Lee was worse last year at the plate than he could have been, should have been. Some of it was just a slump, maybe a lack of confidence, bad luck thrown in. So I don't think there's any reason to. I mean, he could be 10% better than average.
It feels a lot like the rookie season where you look back and you're like, yep, that's how that really good player started out. I don't know what Chase Utley's first year looked like, but I'm sure if you looked at it, it would be like, oh, wouldn't have known he was going to be a Hall of Famer or whatever. Or even like Greg Maddux. I mean, obviously not an apt comparison because Maddux was a pitcher and one of the greatest of all time. But he didn't start out as a bulldog going 8 innings and walking nobody and keeping the ball in the park. Guys have to find their way, and some like Joe Mauer find it right away, and some like Spencer Torkelson take some time. And we don't know if Spencer Torkelson has found his way, but it sure looked like it this weekend. And yeah, there's no reason to doubt that Brooks Lee can be, like you said, maybe a 110 weighted runs created plus at third base with at least respectable defense. And if he's hitting 7th or 8th, I mean, that's a really nice player. Like, people might not realize how much of a luxury that is.
I think the Torkelson career arc is a decent, maybe. Hopefully there won't be another down somewhere, because Torkelson did seem to get it a couple years ago after struggling at first. But I think
he had like
that's
30 homers, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. It was the year before his rookie year where he struggled until late in the season. So, Mike Trout was 19 or 20 when he came up, granted, but he didn't get it immediately either. So Willie Mays didn't hit at first when he came up. I mean, the list goes on. So it's not, and I'm not comparing Brooks Lee to those guys. I'm just saying even the best players at first struggle.
Yeah, I think Willie was like 0 for his first 24 or something, wasn't he? Or something like that. I think that's
worried he was going to go to the minors and never come back, and all that kind of stuff. So with all the things going on in that career. But before we go to our next break, let's talk a little bit more about some of the other good things that happened in the game. You mentioned Julian. He went Apo Taco pole dance for a solo home run. So it was a very Julian home run. Hitting
25 career home runs, 12 have been to opposite field. So he's got that Jock Jones opposite field power stroke.
So it's good. I mean, if it's fair, use it. You got the territory, put it there.
He
put
doesn't
it there,
know the
Cal.
territory. We saw a musical at Chanhassen, and it was, he doesn't know the territory. I can't remember if it was Music Man or what. I think it was Music Man. But the guys singing were like talking about being salesmen that don't know the territory. And it stuck with me. It was our 10th anniversary. So it was a few years ago. And we still joke about that now. So Eddie Julian knows the left field territory. That's where he has some power.
All right. We'll take our last break. I'm sorry I got you down. I mean, it's a lovely memory, Brandon. So yeah. I'm not going to criticize it.
I'll give you a break. And that's a break to tell you about Monarch Money, because if you've ever checked your bank account and wondered where all your money went, chances are, like me, you're paying your taxes. That's what we're doing today. Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, and paying your taxes, it's easy to lose track. And that's where Monarch Money comes into play. It's your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. It's not just a budgeting app. Monarch Money is a complete financial command center, managing all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop managing your money and start building wealth. I'll tell you what, it's kind of fun to see what your net worth is. Well, kind of fun. Not always the most fun, but it's kind of fun. There's fun insights. You can see how much you're spending on food delivery, which is, at the end of the year when they say, hey, here's your Spotify list. It's like, oh, cool. And then at the end of the year, it's like, hey, here's what you watched on Netflix. Oh, cool. And then DoorDash is like, hey, here's what you spent. And I'm like, nope, stop right there. Stop. We do not need to go down this road. Well, Monarch Money knows you do need to keep track of how much you're spending on that kind of stuff. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB on monarchmoney.com and you'll get 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year.
Locked On Twins has returned for our final segment. We're going to talk about the Mets in a second, who are coming to Target Field. And they're coming around, sure. They're going to come around. No, they're playing all right. And the Twins are the ones who need to come around. They've got one win under their belt, and they're going to try and make it 2 tonight with Clay Holmes on the mound, I believe, correct? Didn't you do a deep dive on him?
Joe Ryan and Clay Holmes. Yeah, Clay Holmes, he's trying to do the path of Ronaldo Lopez, and I'm trying to think of who else switched over. I mean, Jordan Hicks.
Lugo.
What's that?
Seth Lugo.
Seth Lugo, yeah. The switch from reliever to starter, which has been kind of trendy the last few years. Guys sign a little more reasonable contracts. If you think you can get a top-end starter, you might pay $12-13 million a year rather than 18 or 20. And at the same time, too, 12 or 13 for a good reliever, if you fall back on that, is not the end of the world. So the biggest thing I noticed is the change in his pitch mix. He's a 3-pitch guy as a reliever. He's dabbled with as many as 6 this year. So it'll be interesting to see how the Twins handle him. I know Mets starters have been pretty good this year. They've struggled with the walk. And so I'll be curious to see if Twins hitters kind of pick up on that, because Mets starters have been good outside of walks. They haven't given up a lot of home runs. I think only 5 so far this year. And so for as ragtag as Mets fans will have you believe their rotation is, they've gotten them off to a 10-5 start with the help of also a very good bullpen.
And we can dream that Mrs. Met, and I guess Mr. Met, will travel to
respectfully, of course.
We'll meet TC Bear at Target Field, but I don't know. If she just came in, that would be great. If she was, if she stopped by, say hi a little bit, that would be nice. But a boy can dream. So that's the situation with Clay Holmes versus Joe Ryan in Game 1. I did want to go back a little bit, talk about how Byron Buxton's playing. He missed a couple games in the Royals series. He was attending the funeral of his cousin down in the Baxley, Georgia area where he's from. She was only 38, and she died April 2nd, I believe, which was and they had the services last week. I don't know if they were like waiting for a moment that he could go. I wouldn't doubt it.
Right.
and that of course gave other people time to pay their respects too. So baseball season being what it is, the Twins didn't use the bereavement list because it would have cost another game. It would have cost 3 games instead of 2, so they didn't have Buxton available for a couple games and had to be kind of quiet about it that first game because they didn't want the Royals to know that they didn't have Buxton for the first game. So because that would have affected how they were pitched and all that stuff and given them an advantage and all that kind of inside baseball stuff. But Buxton has come back. He's hit a couple home runs. He's, I'm not sure entirely what his numbers are, but I look at his StatCast and I'm encouraged by a couple things. His sprint speed, 99 percentile in the league. He's almost as fast as anybody else. He's hitting the ball hard. He's up there 85 or so percentile in hard hit percentage. So he's starting to hit home runs. He's done it a couple times this year where he's hit a ball, maybe not into the gap, but in sort of no man's land where he's been able to turn it into a double with hustling in the second base. That's huge if you're Byron Buxton. Like as you pointed out, a guy that doesn't hit a lot of singles. He's stolen a couple bases, I think 3. So he's got confidence in that. He's been, knock on wood, he's had a couple of, he got hit with a pitch. He ran into the fence, kind of worried about running into the fence and didn't catch the ball in Kansas City, but he's come out of it okay. He's got, he's been in really good shape all this time. If anybody's ever seen Byron Buxton, he's got a lot of muscles.
He's a freaking Adonis, man. He's a thoroughbred.
Whatever was keeping him out of the game, again, I don't have all those answers, but I think it's as much bad luck and bad timing as anything else that has led to him being hurt.
Since his return, he's 3 for 11 with 2 homers and a double and a stolen base. He's hitting .273 with a .385 on base and a .909 slugging percentage. So .1294 OPS. Obviously, 13 plate appearances OPS. You're not going to parse that out so much. But all extra base hits. He's doing everything he can do out in center. And, I mean, those are the only games he's missed this year, right? It's those 2. Otherwise,
he played the first, I want to say, 11 games of the season and then missed the next 2.
Yeah, and then he's played 3 since. So he's I won't say he's back in terms of back, but he's back in terms of he's where he needs to be, and the process seems to be leading to results, which is coming at a really good time because that's not happening quite yet for Carlos Correa. But if he keeps stinging the ball, I mean, sheer regression/progression to the mean says that he should get back to good here pretty soon. Go on.
Water finding its level, or however you want to put it.
He needs to go on like a 10 for 14 spell or something, and he'll be right where he needs to be.
Well, he needs to, and he talked about this a little bit in the Kansas City series, Correa did, of keeping with the process that he uses in the cage to get some air under the ball. He's been hitting a lot of balls to shortstop, and he's not as fast as he used to be, but he also isn't going to run like a bat out of hell because it's going to endanger him getting plantar fasciitis. It
feels like vengeance. Like, hey, shortstop, how do you like when people hit the ball to you? And they're like, really, just fine.
He's had some issues, but it was a touchy situation with Buxton because people we weren't really allowed to say. Reporters might have heard something about where he was, but it was a case where, we're going to tell you this information, but we want you to hold on to it because the Twins don't want the Royals to know.
A gag order, so to speak.
Yes. And it's good that the Twins are an organization that's thoughtful enough to make accommodations like this, especially, I mean, Buxton is kind of the Mauer of today as far as the elder statesman, and also a guy who I think, I'm not saying that he is having as good of a career that Mauer did, right, but people tend to focus on what is not there with Buxton rather than what is. And he gets a lot of crap for that.
He's a quiet leader too. Like, he leads by example.
There, that in that clubhouse, if you have an issue, if you have a question, that's the guy you go to. Not the only guy, but that is a guy who will be there for people who need advice about how to play a fly ball, or I know sometimes Buxton doesn't have the best strike zone control, but he's a guy who knows he knows. So he's going to be able to help somebody that has a question about hitting.
He's got some Torrey Hunter to him in the sense that he's really streaky, and when he's on fire, you can't get anything past him.
Right.
And when he's swinging at sliders 3 feet outside, he looks like Javi Baez. I mean,
right.
The buck gives and the buck takes.
But I think there are a lot of great signs about what kind of season he's going to have.
Yes.
The way he's hitting the ball, the way he's running the bases, I think he's going to be a very valuable player for the Twins this season. So look out for that.
Five win season. Let's see it.
All right, let's give it to him. So Spartan helmet. It's not a meat trophy, but
they also said it may not be time period accurate. They're aware that
got off the internet, so it's not. He didn't get it out of a time machine from the Trojan War. So it's not. That's not the point.
It's Timu Trojan.
It's Timu Trojan. It's a hat with a broom on its head. So I mean, that's what it is, and that's what you do when you win. You put it on your head, and then you can sweep. So anyway, we want to thank you for making Locked On Twins your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts, like this one. Mm-hmm. So for Brandon Warren, this is Dave Brown wishing you all a very pleasant good evening, saying we will talk to you after the next, at some point, Twins game against the Mets, a 3-game series at Target Field, and hopefully they will get a little bit of a win streak going. So for Brandon, I'm Dave, saying we will Alexei Casilla tomorrow night.